Welcome to the special author interview presented by Magic Moon Publishers. Today, we are honored to be in conversation with Nikita John, the author of Derrida in JNU. We are delighted to welcome Nikita John, the author, academic and philosopher. With a master's and MPhil from JNU New Delhi, she has also served as an assistant professor. Her novels include the Malayalam novel Klirlovichinte Samantara Rekakal and the bilingual Sun and Contingent Stasis of Meta, which reflects her literary range. She was a former content writer here at Magic Moon Publishers. Now, Nikita John returns here as the author of Derrida in JNU. Let's dive into the conversation with Nikita. Welcome, Nikita. Welcome back to Magic Moon Publishers. It must feel so special to you to return here in a new light as the author of Derrida in JNU. How does it feel?
First of all, I feel immense pleasure and immense gratitude for inviting me to this show as well as letting me write and publish a book with Magic Moon Publishers. But before I start, or before I even talk to you about how the digital print version, the time it got printed and it was in my hands, what I felt, I'd like to break the fourth wall. I believe that there is a he or she outside right now listening to me, listening to us. And at this point, I know that unlike in a performance where the third person is the actor or actress, herself or himself, this time I know that the person who's outside is just watching. And that sort of gives me immense, that gives me a sort of strength to move on. And that in itself is something I feel has liberated me from the chains of silence. And that's why I feel that the book in print is something that I have, forever wanted.
Could you share us how your writing journey has begun and what experiences have shaped you into the writer you are in today?
When you talk about something or somebody like a writer, it's not a role that you get into. I feel that it's something that comes to you in whispers, in tantrums, something that comes to you and make you subjected to it, make you obliged to it. And that's how I feel that my journey, if there was at all a journey, like the way John Bunyan has imagined it in The Pilgrim's Progress, the writing itself as a journey. If there is something or any such thing, I believe that to a large extent, you become like a dandelion flying in the wind. You become, Wordsworth's daffodils. I feel that I am a poem in writing.
Writing Derrida in JNU feels both personal and political. At what point did the impulse of memory, philosophy, and campus life take root in you into a book?
That's a really wonderful question, which I would like to excavate and learn and then relearn. But then there's one thing that I want to tell you, that nothing is political with me. Everything is personal, deeply personal. So what I feel is that when I write a book, I'm not only bringing archives, philosophy, etc. meet, but I'm also becoming one through it. That's what I feel.
Okay, that's wonderful. Your narrative has been described as linguistically precise and politically deep. In what ways or how your background in theory shapen your writing style, and in what ways the setting of JNU contributed in your political and philosophical tone of your work?
Jane is that behemoth, that sort of big part, an elephant in the room when it comes to how it has exercised its will upon me as a writer. You would see that there were places where I had broken down and I had given, I sort of ended up being tagged as a JNU product, but not really liking so. So there is that part of me, but then there is that part of me which is connected to the alma mater, the politics of it, the liberalism, the American, the what do you say, the notions, the nuances of being a sort of what do you say, a sort of humanist that you are. And I think that if it is linguistically precise, I mean, that much the good. But then I also feel that if it is philosophically deep, then that's something that I would like to, I wish my reader would tell me.
Blending theory and romance is not something we often see. But Derrida in JNU does it so seamlessly. So, how did you conceive this kind of storytelling?
Um, as a person, I don't believe that the author exists after the book is out. In the sense, I believe that the author is dead, and that is coming from Roland Barthes, etc., that you would be able to see that the text itself forms its own semiotic presence. So, in that, what I feel is that Derrida in JNU happened before the romance happened. In the sense, this book had to be written, this book had to be present here in order for there to have taken place a romance in the past. So that's what I feel, and I feel that how theory and romance intermingles itself, it's when you like are presumably an intellectual. I'm not saying that I'm one, but when you're presumably an intellectual, things that come to you are also easing and soothing for the mind. So that's how the romance took place in the novel as well as outside.
You merge Sanskrit and postmodern philosophy in a magical, realistic mode. How did you strike the balance between these two contrasting elements?
When you say how did I strike the balance between, I feel that it in itself is a striking point, that the strike in itself is a strike, the metaphor in itself is the metaphor. But then what I feel is that this is a question that I've been waiting for. How did Sanskrit and postmodern philosophy intermingle with each other? How did they produce each other? How did they, in one sense, how did they give birth to each other? That's the unique point at which I am. And I feel that just as Spivak, Gayatri Chakravarti Spivak had been the editor of Derrida's of Grammatology. Similarly, there is a sort of editorial work that's happening, which is in terms with my tradition. So I believe that the current point of research or of my being is that there is a sort of a movement into the past, and this movement might have also shown itself in the book.
In Derrida in JNU, Das and Deva seem to enact the Derridian thoughts through their silences and dialogues. How did their characters take shape?
I have to be brutally honest here that when a story writer or when a novelist comes and sits to write his or her novel, there are various, if there are n number of writers, there are n to infinity number of ways you can do it. So what I'm thinking is that for me, characters had to be philosophically vulnerable. They had to imbibe every philosophy into them. So I feel that when I give address to these characters, Das, Diva, etc., I sort of kept to the core of the book, that it is a philosophical fiction. It is also academic, so that way students can relate to it, intellectuals can relate to it. So for me, it was part of writing itself, the way the characters were developed. There was no special intention on giving a particular role, a particular dialogue, etc. It happened along with the story.
What were some of the challenges in writing a novel that appeals to the intellect and the emotions?
I hope my audience know about John Donne. John Donne is a metaphysical poet from Britain, and he's known for integrating feelings with thoughts, and that's how metaphysical poetry begins. So what I feel is that I never had a strenuous effort to integrate feeling and emotion because I'm a human. But I'm in writing, to bring it into writing is something else, because you're not just a human, but you're also a writer. So, in that sense, how does these things, sense and reference, commingle, is a sort of in itself a philosophical thought. So I might have delved into it, but for me it feels like an effort wasted, because I don't think I come up with any surprising answer to how to commingle these two, because it happens non deliberately in the text.
In what ways do you think that Derrida in JNU is contributing or challenging the contemporary landscape of Indian English fiction?
Unsure as to how this book would be taken by the audience at the present moment, but I feel that Indian English fiction is a vast area, and if you compare it to something like the Cat and Shakespeare, or any of the Untouchable, for instance, you will see that these texts, at that point of time when it was being written, The Untouchable, for instance, had was trying to mimic what was happening in the West, the realist fiction. So I think in that sense, because of our language capabilities are much lesser, we might have ended up not being able to reciprocate to the current movements in literature with much fervor. But I feel that you can, in all, be Western while you're reading English. I believe that a person who reads English is the best reader, whether it be of science, whether it be of fiction, whether it be of facts. So, a person reading English is someone who's chosen uh, English, or for that matter, any language, is chosen as the best reader. So I think that most of the time that I'm writing would be only a sort of a result of me having read certain books.
Are there other philosophers or literary figures you are interested in exploring in your you are interested within exploring in your future work?
Absolutely. There is, in my present reading, I try to include as much as the Western as well as the Eastern philosophy, because I've been trying to brood over Lacan as much as Jacques Lacan and psychoanalysis, as much as I am trying to, you know, um, get into Eastern philosophy, including Panini, Aryabhatta. So I'm thinking that there is a sort of thin line where I'm trying to negotiate with these writers, with these authors, with these genius people. So what I'm trying to do is trying to find a niche where I can be, someone, a part of their literature, just as Aryabhatta takes place in tradition, or Lacan through psychoanalysis of the mind. So I think I'm trying to find a niche place there. These are the writers that I'm going through presently.
Your previous works span both in Malayalam and English. How do you decide which language a story demands?
Um, I think I've mentioned this before, that a text comes to be whether through an author or a writer, or through a historian or a scientist. A text comes to be, and we see that in it which language to be taken. I believe that these languages were Prakrit. They were even prior to Sanskrit. Sanskrit got evolved after going through the Prakrit. So I believe that maybe after Malayalam, we might as well go back into things being Sanskritized. So that's one way. And for your question, how do I understand which language to take? I do not make such an option at all, because for me, I have a voice in Malayalam. I feel I have a presence in Malayalam, which I do not have in English so much. So I sort of like camouflage with Derrida, with other writers, and I sort of bring out what is essential and uh, improvise with what's happening with these writers. But then with Malayalam, I feel I'm strongly there. I'm able to protest if that's required. And I believe that a language is not chosen, it sort of takes birth in that language.
What do you expect from Derrida in JNU as part of a growing genre in the academic fiction of India?
The term academic fiction, I think it's new, and we are trying to, as a publisher, like from the part of my editorial board, from the part of publishing, there is a sort of you know effort from their part to bring forth this genre, and I believe that mine would be a sort of the you know somewhat crisp example of what there is of academic fiction. And I don't know who else would have done it, because I remember in Gothic novels, mm, Frankenstein. So they had the idea that they are going to do Gothic novels, and then Frankenstein takes place. Similarly, with my editor, we had conversations over coffee. Like we've had huge, I really, really want to thank Yasser Arafat for helping me with a lot of problems that I had and trying to finally chisel a novel out of it. So to become, if it becomes an academic fiction and a what do you say, and a prior one at that, then I would be really happy if that genre continues. And I want to thank Yasser Arafat at this point. I believe your editor is only your true friend, and only a true friend can edit the insights of you, right? So in that sense, I believe that, and along with that, the whole crew, the whole all my colleagues at Magic Moon Publishers, I'm really thankful to them. They were supporting me at every point of this being written, and I believe that if it has come about as a book, it's their effort as much as what is of mine.
Thank you, Nikita. Thank you so much for coming here and spending your valuable time with us. It's a very, very wonderful pleasure for us to have you here and to have an interaction with you about Derrida in JNU. And all the very best from Magic Moon Publishers for you and Derrida in JNU in future.
Thank you.